I woke up this morning and I realized that there's a lot going on in my head that I haven't really shared with anyone really. And I've had tons of opportunities, Oprah, interviews, to go on a platform and share hardships and or just really anything that's going on in my mind. And I really don't think any of that is relevant to getting paid to tell your story. I feel like it's kind of silly. So I'm here honestly just to open myself to others and try to shed a light on if anyone out there has ever gone through hardships or whatever it is, just to put a light on it. And so that person doesn't feel alone, because I really know what that feels like. I haven't honestly shared this openly too as well, because I've always been scared of the judgment and definitely the embarrassment of the whole thing, period, and the skepticism and the cynical people and their opinions of what people would actually think. I do think I'm in a place now where I'm a little bit more confident that I can be willing to share openly my thoughts and what I've been through, because I haven't really had that outlet to share completely openly. Conservatorship actually started, I think, 15 to 16 years ago. I was 25 when it started. I was extremely young. I remember a lot of my friends texting me and calling me, and we were extremely close, and they wanted to see me, but by what had happened, I honestly still to this day don't know what really I did, but the punishment of my father, I wasn't able to, see anyone or like anything. And you have to imagine none of it made sense to me. I literally spoke in a British accent to a doctor to prescribe my medication, and 3 days later, there was a swap team in my home, 3 helicopters, and I remember my mom's best friend and my 2 girlfriends. We had a sleepover the night before. They held me down on a gurner, and again, none of it made sense. Literally, the extent of my madness was playing chase with paparazzi, which is still to this day one of the most fun things I ever did about being famous. So I don't know what was so harmful about that. But I remember my mom was sitting on the couch and she said, "We've heard people are coming here today to talk to you. We should probably go, to a hotel or something." And I never really understood what she meant. I didn't believe her. Like, is a lawyer coming here? Who is coming here? Then 4 hours later, there were over 200 paparazzi outside my house videotaping me through a window of an ambulance, holding me down on a gurner. I know now it was all premeditated. A woman introduced the idea to my dad, and my mom actually helped him follow through and made it all happen. It was all basically set up. There was no drugs in my system, no alcohol, nothing. It was pure abuse. And I haven't even really shared even half of it. I think the main thing I do remember when it started was my dad's control. He loved to control everything I did. I remember the first day he said, "I'm Britney Spears and I'm calling the shots." And I'm like, alrighty then. My brother was a football player. My dad was really, really hard on him when he was younger, really abusive. And I think when my mom gave him the idea for the conservatorship and his friend, I think he just really regrouped it and made such a really, really overhauling big deal out of it. And it was just really too much. I remember him always being in the office. My girlfriend was his assistant, and they would just stay in there all day with the door shut, and I was never able to leave or go anywhere. My first job, after the 2 weeks of being hospitalized and completely traumatized out of my mind, I did a TV show called How I Met Your Mother, and then I started working on an album called Circus and started working right away. All I do remember is I had to do what I was told. I was told I was fat every day. I had to go to the gym. I had to just... And I never remember feeling so demoralized, and just, they made me feel like nothing. And I went along with it because I was scared. I was scared and fearful. I didn't even really do anything. And I had like a swap team and how, like, none of it made sense to me. So since that day, I did probably 4.5 tours. I did an album, Circus, Femme Fatale, Britney Jean, and Glory. And then I started doing a Vegas show, and I did that for 4.5 years. I do remember working, and I got to a point where you know, because my pride in my 30s, I have to live under my father's rules. And, you know, the dancers are playing and drinking and having fun at nights in Vegas, and I couldn't do anything. And my performances, I know, were horrible. Like, I even wore wigs, and all the dancers were doing all these nice, sexy head flip turns, and I had conditioner treatment in my hair and like these little caps over my head, and just during a whole show getting conditioner treatments just with wigs on, because I was just like a robot. Honestly, I didn't give a fuck anymore, because I couldn't go where I wanted to go. I couldn't have the nannies that I wanted to have. I couldn't have cash, and it was just demoralizing. So I was kind of like in this conspiracy thing of people claiming and like treating me like a superstar, but yet they treated me like nothing. Well, for some reason, I started to get a spark back. I remember recording Glory, and for some reason, I think producing and making music, and I went to this little Spanish house, and I got the fire back in my eyes for some reason, and it was at the end of recording Glory, and my son named it, and things started kind of taking a turn, because I started getting more confidence just for myself. And I think with confidence, people kind of like, oh, wait, what's going on now? Like, she's speaking up a little bit more, but it might not be particularly a good thing if I'd been quiet for 15 years. I think with confidence comes enlightenment, which makes you think better. And that's the last thing they wanted me to do, is to actually be better, because then who would be in control then? But it was really tricky, because I had to just play this role that everything was okay all the time, and I had to go along with it because I knew they could hurt me. So I'm sitting here, like, my friends all drinking alcohol and having fun in these parties, and had no cash. I literally felt like a nun. My girlfriends from home came to visit me in a spa, and I couldn't even walk into the spa, and they had their feet doing pedicures in the water and the bottles of champagnes before my show, just sitting there. And I wasn't even acknowledged by them, my own hometown friends, when they would come to Vegas. And it was demoralizing, I will say. You also have to understand, it's like, 15 years of touring and doing shows, and I'm 30 years old under my dad's rules. And all of this is going on, and my mom's witnessing this, and my brother is witnessing, and my friends are witnessing it, and they all go along with it. And I'm like, how am I the one working here and doing all this, but I don't get the good stuff? I want to be able to play. I want to be able to have fun. Like, none of it made sense to me. Oh, the last show in Vegas ended 2017. I went on tour, which of tour I was forced to do, but I was supposed to do a new show. So the new show came along. I rehearsed, I think maybe 4 days ago. I don't really remember, but I went to one of the rehearsals, and I said no to a dance, and I was like, no, can we do that? I don't want to do this. And then I just remember everything got really weird and quiet, and all the directors and producers went in the back room and just spoke. And that was it. And I was like, well, I don't know what's going on. So we all just kind of what happened. And then the next day, I was told that I had to be sent away to a facility, and that I was supposed to say on my Instagram the reason why is because my dad is sick and I need treatment, which was, I didn't want to ever go there. I remember my dad calling me on the phone, and I was crying, and I was like, why are you guys doing this? Like, what? And I just remember him saying, you have to listen to the doctors. The doctors are going to tell you what to do. I can't help you now. And I remember his last words were, now, you don't have to go, but if you don't go, we're going to go to court, and there'll be a big trial, and you're going to lose. I have way more people on my side than you. You don't even have a lawyer, so don't even think about it. So I did it. I went to the place. I was scared out of my mind. And none of it, again, made any sense of what they were doing to me. And again, I haven't wanted to share this because it's unbelievably offensive, sad, abusive. And honestly, would anybody believe me? I remember the main thing of when I was in that place, that my heart felt like it was frozen, like it was stuck inside, and I wanted to scream and I wanted to get out. And I think by a needle and thread, it was the breathing peacefully inward that I missed the most. I felt like I was in a state of shock, almost like when an old person feels helpless and they're literally going through some sort of shock treatment and they can't relax their body because They don't have the answers of why they can't have their own keys to their car and put it in the ignition and walk outside, and their own security guards at every door saying they can't go. Weak as hell. And then calling, and my family is in Destin at my beach house. It didn't make sense. The main thing, I to this day, I kind of stopped believing in God at that time, because I didn't know how they could have 40 people leave my house a day and me work from 8 to 6 at night, be seen changed every time I changed, in the shower, no privacy, no door, nothing. How did they get away with it? And what the fuck did I do to deserve that? I couldn't even smoke cigarettes. People on death row can smoke cigarettes. I missed my AA meetings, although I was kind of forced to go to AA, and I'm not even an alcoholic. I actually enjoyed it because I thought the people were brilliant. They shared their stories just to share their story, and in a circle of women and men who just are trying to be better people and trying to touch other people. It watched me change naked every day. I did work 7 days a week. No weekends were off. They monitored what I ate. From 8 to 6 I work. Sometimes at 9 o'clock I'd be able to watch a movie. Finally, the owner of the whole facility that I was always texting to try to be able to go somewhere, just get out of that place somehow, he had to let me go because the Free Britney campaign came out with all the pink t-shirts. I saw it on a lot of the morning shows, and people by word of mouth, and I think just by my fans knowing by heart that something was up. I remember one of the guys were on an interview on the street, and he said, you know what, I could be totally wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll be really, really embarrassed, and I'll just go have a drink somewhere. He said, but I do feel like they're doing something to her right now, and I'm not surely what it is, but that's what my heart says. But the whole thing that made it really confusing for me is these people are on the street fighting for me, but my sister and my mother aren't doing anything. To me, it was like they secretly, honestly liked me being the bad one, like I was messed up, and they kind of just liked it that way. Otherwise, why weren't they outside my doorstep saying, baby girl, get in the car, let's go? I think that's the main thing that hurt me. I couldn't process how my family went along with it for so long. And I mean, almost half a year, you know? And their only response was, we didn't know. I'm like, I'm on the phone telling you right now, I'm here, please. Eventually, by the grace of God and praying on my knees, I left the place. But I was still scared. I was really, really scared. And from then on, I had support. I needed a lot of support. And I found 2 really, really great people that would come to my house weekly and just help me with my mind, because I didn't understand all the therapy that I had to do there. But why have therapy when it's forced and in like a militant, almost prison-like way that like is where you're not even all there? None of it made sense. Well, I think my strength grew because I didn't reach out to my dad anymore. And they were playing the game of ball and twist of, you know, she's going to come running back to us because we've scared her and we're the bosses here. But I didn't. I just stalled, and I stalled, and I stalled, and I stalled. And finally, I think they just knew I wasn't going back. And I finally got a lawyer. A wonderful friend finally got me a lawyer. And he really helped me through it. To me, the thing was, I think the trauma of all of it and the whole thing together, and going down to how much effort and work and heart I put in to what I did when I did work, even down to the details of how many rhinestones are going to be in my costume. And I cared so much. And they literally killed me. They threw me away. That's what I felt like my family threw me away. I was performing for like thousands of people at night in Vegas, the rush of being a performer, the laughter, the joy, the respect. I was shaking over 40 people's hands every night before a show, training weekly, 3 training sessions a week, AA meetings, therapy sessions. I was a machine. I was a fucking machine. Not even human, almost. It was insane how hard I worked. And the one time I speak up and say no in the rehearsals to a fucking dance move, they got pissed. I feel like the scare tactic and how badly they treated me in the end, I think they thought I was going to come begging back to work again because they thought, I needed them. Because they put me in an ignorant, scared state of mind to make me feel like I needed them. And if you don't do what we say, we're going to show you who's boss. I didn't play their game anymore. I got on my knees every day and I prayed. I held on like a needle and thread to some sort of existence because they had made me feel like nothing for so long. I knew in the deepest part of my core, I knew I'd done nothing wrong and I didn't deserve the way I'd been treated. I do think the hardest thing for me was I wanted to use my feet and leave and run or go somewhere. I had to be placed in a chair from like 8 to 6 every day. I couldn't take it. I talked to rabbis, I've talked to grown men about it, and they're like, we don't see how you did it. Honestly, I don't either. And through that, I remember saying, I don't believe in God anymore. I honestly deserve an award for acting like I was okay every day. I thought they were trying to fucking kill me. I remember one time I was backstage and I needed my inhaler. And I opened up to my assistant because I had my phone with me, which I'm not supposed to have my phone underneath the stage. But I said to her, you know what I'm doing. I was talking to a guy and he wanted to just leave the country with me. We had it all set up to just leave. And it was a secret relationship. And I said, my biggest fear was, what would my dad do if I did do something wrong? What if I left the country? And what if they found me? And what would they do? And I said, I feel like they would lock me up or something or really hurt me. And she looked at me and she said, are you kidding me, Britney? Your dad would never do that to you. And I didn't even do anything wrong, and he still did it. I'm honestly more angry at my mom because I heard when reporters would call her at the time and ask questions of what was going on, she would go innocently hide in the house and she wouldn't speak up. It was always like, I don't know what to say. I just don't want to say the wrong thing. We're praying for her. I feel like she could have gotten me a lawyer in literally 2 seconds. My friend helped me get one in the end, but every time I made contact with a firm, my phone was tapped and they would take my phone away from me. And again, I get nothing out of sharing all of this. I have offers to do interviews with Oprah and so many people, lots of money, but it's insane. I don't want any of it. For me, it's beyond a sit-down proper interview. I had no contact in that place for so long, and my heart would just want to stand up in my family's faces and scream and cry and throw a tantrum and go back in time and do exactly what I wanted to do at those times. Yeah, and might even spit in their fucking faces. Why? Because the pain my family gave me, sitting me there all day and not being able to use my feet, as they watch their grandchildren run bases to base in a family neighborhood as if I'm dead or I don't exist, honestly makes me look up and say, how the fuck did they get away with it? How is there a God? Is there a God? Not being able to stand up. I was so weak. And my family's at my beach house. I was scared, broken. I'm sharing this because I want people to know I'm only human. I do feel victimized after these experiences. And how can I mend this if I don't talk about it? I have an amazing song right now with one of the most brilliant men of our time, and I'm so grateful. If you're a weird, introvert, oddball like me, who feels alone a lot of the time, and you needed to hear a story like this today so you don't feel alone, know this, my life has been far from easy, and you're not alone.
The court put her in this, they have to be accountable for everything that goes on under it. During this time, one of the things that happened was my sister asked me if something were to happen to her, would I oversee a trust for her boys? Never even became the trustee of this thing, and that is documented by her team in the court approved First Amendment to the SJB Trust in 2018. The SJB Trust modified to have Jamie Lynn Spears appointed as trustee. Petitioner is informed. This is her people's team. And believes that Jamie Lynn Spears never undertook any of these steps to actually become trustee, which I didn't do the minimum task. I just didn't follow through with it. It just didn't feel like something I should do. I didn't understand sometimes like where or what my position was or how I could be helpful, but also I was dealing with my own dynamics in our relationship. And I was getting to a place where mine and her relationship was becoming a bit more challenging and unhealthy for me, where at some point I had to protect myself too. And like outside of the conservatorship or anything, like mine and her relationship was becoming to a point where I needed to also set boundaries and healthy boundaries with her.
So this is a report that just tells us a little bit stuff about Lou Taylor. It shows that she worked at that Stonebridge Wealth Management Company as an investment advisor. But as of May 2013, her registration was no longer valid. I don't know what happened to it, but she just is not registered with the SEC anymore as an investment advisor. Similarly, she has not passed any industry exams and she has no professional designations. On the next page, you will see her employment history. And as far as the federal government is concerned, she is an employee at Stonebridge Investment Counsel, Prime Capital Services, and TriStar Sports and Entertainment. So even though she no longer is registered as an investment advisor for Stonebridge Investment Counsel, she is the executive vice president.
It was so nice for her to get to drive her car and, with the top down and just feel free for a minute. But then on the other hand, I'm thinking like, what is going on with this girl that we have to arrange, 30 people have to arrange this whole thing to let her drive her car to feel free for 30 minutes? Like, how is that how she gets to feel free? I mean, the whole thing is fucked up. I'm sorry. Britney and I had become close. I could shoot her in a way that, like not all the other camera people could. And so then we just, developed this sort of close-knit friendship. There were times that she did want to speak out and address things and wasn't really able to. This People article came out. I think they had interviewed Kevin and, obviously talked about Britney. Yeah, she wrote this letter and she gave it to me and she was like, can you go on TV? Can you read this on TV? As for Kevin saying Britney divorced him, she was forced to by her lawyers because she went to visit him in New York and he wouldn't see her and the children. And her lawyer said if she doesn't divorce him, he's going to do it himself. So Kevin trying to play the innocent victim is hardly irrelevant. He left her and the babies. Her going on the mend partying 2 years ago has nothing to do with the situation now. She's a completely different person, and most of their fighting was done back then because of his problem waking and baking to marijuana at 5 o'clock in the morning. No one talks about these things because no one knows the truth. She was lied to and set up. Her children were taken away, and she did spin out of control, which any mother would in those circumstances. Now this year, Britney's been silenced to speak out about anything that's really going on. The people controlling her life have made $3 million this year. She would love for new eyes to see her situation, but if she brings it up, she's constantly threatened that the conservators will take her kids away. So how long does this go on for? As long as the people are getting paid and she has no rights, it could go on for a while, but it doesn't make it right at all. Britney's given her brother a $2 million apartment, her mother an estate in Louisiana, and her father the best job in show business. She's a very giving person who would love to get the respect she deserves.
Britney's longtime manager. He started in 1996 as her attorney and then grew into her manager. But in April of 2007, Britney fired him. Larry was the main person that Jamie Spears brought back to get things running. And he often will say that he's not involved with the conservatorship, or that he doesn't know what goes on in the conservatorship, that he only knows what goes on with Britney's work. Louise Taylor, aka Lou, led business decisions at times over the course of the conservatorship.
Lou Taylor started appearing around 2008. And then she somehow managed to become Britney's business manager.
Lou Taylor, through her attorney Charles Harder, sent me a preemptive legal letter regarding any mention of Lou Taylor or her company, TriStar, in this film. The letter was extensive. While Lou's involvement with Britney was unclear, what was apparent was that Jamie and Lou were very close. Some sleuthing of Instagram showed Lou and her husband with Jamie on the day of his baptism at the Jordan River.
Britney's condition at the start of the conservatorship, and it's a kind of a standard form where you indicate what the person's impairment is that requires a conservatorship. Specifically, this is interesting to us because it's orders related to dementia placement. When someone is being made a conservatee, they're entitled to 5 days heads up so that if they want to contest it or find a lawyer, etc., they have the time to do that. The only reason given for depriving Britney of 5 days notice is that Sam Lutfi is dangerous and needs to be kept away.
Look at this sentence right here, read it out loud.
Britney Spears lacks the capacity to retain and direct counsel. Britney Spears lacks the capacity to understand or manage her own financial affairs without being subject to undue influence. What's wild is, at the same time this report was being written, Britney was already back to work. She was on the set of How I Met Your Mother.
Paperwork that says she had dementia.
How is someone who is that ill well enough to go to work? Caution should also be exercised so as not to accelerate her return to work faster than her emotional recovery allows, lest she have a relapse that would undo the progress she has made thus far. I had known Britney Spears for a decade almost, and so I cared about her in a human way that there was no denying it at that point, that I could be more useful and she would be waiting for me. I showed her the spots where she needed to sign, and she signed, and she just sort of looked at me and said thank you, and I said, I'll see you again. Go. Yeah, she definitely seemed scared. It was hard to tell because I was so scared, but she was appreciative, which was like such classic kind of her vibe, to be in that moment, to be scared, but to also be grateful, I was told there would be an ex parte hearing immediately to address this, but then days passed and Britney was supposed to go on a trip somewhere with her dad. I couldn't believe it when I found out about a week later that it was all over, and that, similar to what had happened with Adam Streisand, that it had been ruled that she lacked the capacity to choose a lawyer and that they had cast enough doubt onto whether that was her signature. I never heard anything of it again. And still no one really talks about the fact that there was another attempt to get a lawyer that somehow didn't work out.
But someone else knew about the incident at the montage. The court-appointed lawyer for the conservatorship, Sam Ingham, stated that Britney called him and told him that she'd met with a reporter from Rolling Stone to sign documents about acquiring new counsel. He went on to say Britney does not wish to do that and asked him to do whatever is necessary to, quote, squash the document. She further stated that she was, quote, fully satisfied with my representation of her. That same day, the attorney she tried to hire, John Anderson, withdrew, stating, "I can say no more, will do no more, and that is the end for me." It was another time that Britney had tried to seek her own representation, and it failed.
It's the conservatee's attorney is the one person in the system who is tasked with making the conservatee's best case.
You know, as you see things on the news, you're not there, so it becomes a little more scary, you know, because you're like, what? So I'm calling mom, mom's calling me, you know, like trying to figure out what's going on. So I kind of think we kind of got caught by surprise with it all, to be honest with you. But, you know, in the end, it's been a great thing for our family, you know, to this point, and just trying to keep hoping for the best.
Was it initiated by someone in the family, the request for it, or was it by outside officials?
I don't really know, actually. I don't really know how that went down.
Okay.
Not everybody agreed with it either. You know, like, you know, everyone had their own opinion and like, oh, well, maybe we should do it this way or do it that way. But at the end, I think we made the right choice. How it proceeds from here, you know, I don't know. Not in
you think it was the right choice for there to be a conservatorship for?
At the time, yes.
Right. And your dad, are you and your dad close?
Yeah.
And your dad was a big part of that at the beginning, and he remains a very active part of the conservatorship from what I've seen. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
And
yes. I'm not for sure exactly how that what his role is, but yeah, he's very active in it.
How is that perceived in the family among the other family members? Is it, you know, hey, Dad, thanks for doing this and looking out for our sister. It's great that you're putting the time into that. Or is there some disagreement over that?
He's done the best he could given the situation he was put in. And, you know, we've had to like work together as a family to kind of keep it all going. I mean, as you know, with any family, one person might be like on stage and doing this, but it's a sacrifice from everybody.
It sounds like a lot of the information you get over the years has had to have been through the media, through the news, and that's got to be hard. I mean, because, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, do you have the ability? Do you pick up the phone and call your sister? Do you guys communicate directly?
Yeah, we speak constantly. But then again, though, like you obviously, you know, go a few days, and next thing you know, you wake up and your siblings on CNN, you know, everywhere. Right. You kind of get concerned. Yeah, she's wanted to get out of it for quite some time. What level of that is the reality? Who knows? You know, it's like
when you say that, meaning you're not sure if she means what she says.
Well, I mean, think about it. She's been surrounded by people and a team of people since she was 15. So, at what level does everyone just walk away, or like what level does that get reduced? You know,
right. But I'm gathering that what you're saying is that maybe. I don't want to put words in your mouth, that maybe you ask her certain things, she answers, and you're not sure that if she's answering, she's either being 100% truthful or if she knows what she's saying. I'm just not.
Or clear. Just like, you know, I mean, I know what she wants, but I'm just saying, like, you know, at the end of the day, what is the reality of that? You know,
like what would that be in practicality?
Yeah, the practicality of that. Oh, so are you going to call and make reservations for yourself today? Are you going to, like, you know, like?
Right. How long has she been in this conservatorship?
I don't even know. It's been a long time. I mean, we've done many shows since we've been in it. So.
Over a decade, she's doing shows in front of sold out people. She's flying private. She's doing all these crazy, amazing pop star, megastar things. And then if she wants to go shopping, she's got to ask someone on the court's behalf for some money to go shopping and do something. And then the conservatorship ends, and maybe she goes to the ATM, takes out $100 or so, and a little receipt kicks out its balance and is like 700,246,000. Yeah, I was like, how do you manage that? Is that one of the concerns?
I think in general, it's like just as a personal development, like, you know, like if you're coming into life and you've never had to do something and having to learn it, Obviously, it's a lot better to learn it when you have a lot of money and you can learn it. But like, I'm sure it's going to be an adjustment. You know, let's say it does get let go, and she's calling her own. Like, you know, everyday task stuff. I think it's probably going to be. I mean, it's a great challenge, but it's probably going to be quite. I mean, like driving. She's the worst driver in the world. I'm not lying. Like, bless her heart. Like, she really is not a really good driver, and she hasn't had to do that. So